that when you're in the moment, like when I was doing the NFL Today, I just didn't think about that. It was just a matter of, I'm never going to get this job. They're not looking for someone like me. But I knew that I could do it, and I knew that I would have a lot of fun doing it, and I knew that it would be an amazing first step for a lot of people.
Yeah, TikTok, I'm just rolling on the block. Marisa took me, heard that. Pocket show about to start. Heard that. You should know if entertainment is your goal. You talking sports or travel, yo. This the hottest pod show. Heard that. She got her shoes, everything she says is truth. If you don't know, now you know. All you ever gotta say is heard that, heard that, heard that, heard that, heard that. Look, all you ever gotta say.
What's up, Heard That Nation? Listening in the United States and around the world, you are listening now to the Heard That with Marisa Tigney podcast. If you are watching right now on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you stay in the know of all future episodes that are happening and incredible guests that come on this show. I cannot tell you the amount of messages that have blown up in my DMs of the guests that I have on the show, on the podcast. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not following her, you're going to follow her probably during the show, after the show. She is an absolute legend. She has made history in the late 70s, 80s, becoming the first Black woman to be on a national show, a sports show, NFL on CBS. She is a media spokesperson. She is a journalist. She is a mother. She is a legend. Many people that have spoken her name knows exactly what I'm talking about. I am so honored to have this Emmy-nominated NCAA Image Award winner on my podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Jayne Kennedy Overton, welcome to the Heard That podcast.
Thank you, Marisa. It is a joy for me to be here. I've been looking forward to this so much. A lot of people will not know why this is so important to me, but you do, and maybe we can talk about that a bit later. But
absolutely.
You just touched my soul when I saw you, and I just had to reach out. So here I am.
I am so delighted, and I'm so honored to have you on here. And when I was, and you had saw me when I did speak your praises and pretty much the path that you have laid out for so many women of color, so many Black women when it comes to journalism. It was a reel that you had sent me with all the highlights that you have done and all the accomplishments, and the interviews that you have done. But it was something that Jemele Hill, an incredible journalist in her own right, had said on a show that many people do not speak your name often. And I agree with that because it has to somehow hit you hard, hit you so much in your heart and in your spirit when you see so many of these women now, Robin Roberts, Oprah, Deborah Roberts, Jemele Hill, Carrie Champion, Lisa Salters, Pam Oliver, Ellie Duncan. There's so many women now that are in journalism and in entertainment that are holding a platform, either being that lead journalist, that lead host, or co-host. Does it, when you see all these women, you see all these Black women, all these women of color, do you sit there for a moment, Jayne, and just be like, you take it all in that you were the one that literally kicked the door open for the opportunity, for myself included, for all of us to have an opportunity to have our voice heard through the talents of entertainment and journalism? Does that sink into you somehow that, wow, okay, I truly did have something, I had my hand in this and made all of these doors open for many women today?
It is not lost on me, for sure. But I have to say that when you're in the moment, like when I was doing the NFL Today, I just didn't think about that. It was just a matter of, I'm never going to get this job. They're not looking for someone like me. But I knew that I could do it, and I knew that I would have a lot of fun doing it, and I knew that it would be an amazing first step for a lot of people. But I didn't realize the significance of it, actually. And, I asked my agent to submit me because I had heard that they were looking for someone to replace Phyllis George. And the NFL Today was the #1 show at that
Mhm.
point, the #1 pregame show. Bob Costas said it, as a matter of fact, it set the standard for what pregame shows are today.
Mhm.
So that's how big it was, and to just think, here I am, I've never done sports broadcasting before, but I knew a lot of people in the sports world and they were my friends, and I grew up loving sports, as did you.
Yeah.
It was something that was, I would sit there with my dad and I would watch Bobo Brazil and his famous Cocoa Butt. I would sit there with my dad and we would watch baseball. And then my dad played baseball on his church team and on his work team. And I swear, if he had had the opportunities when he was a youngster, he probably would have ended up in the minor leagues at least. But it was always something that was in my spirit. When I was in elementary school, I competed in the Junior Olympics for the state of Ohio in the standing broad jump, which I don't even think they do anymore, but and the softball throw. And I wanted to be part of sports when I went into middle school, but this was pre-Title IX. There were no opportunities for female competitive sports programs. They just didn't exist. And so the closest I could get to football was to be a cheerleader. I wanted to go to all the games. And so there I was on the bus at the away games, leading the school spirit at home. But that wasn't enough, because then I had to do basketball, I had to do the wrestling. And then when I told them I wanted to be a part of the track program, there were no positions. So I said, I just want to be the statistician, just so I can get on the bus and go to the games.
Yeah.
But that's just, it was in my DNA. It was a part. Oh, and they made me the water girl too. But I did get on the bus.
See, literally, you were the Jayne of many trades, pretty much.
I was. So sports was something that I absolutely loved. And so when this opportunity came up, I just had to go for it and see what happened. And my agent told me they're not looking for a Black woman, that's for sure. And they want a journalist. Well, I knew that they didn't want a journalist because I'd seen the list of some of the people that had been submitted. And the PR guy for CBS Sports said something like it was the biggest talent surge since Scarlett O'Hara.
Wow.
If I think I'm quoting her correctly. But they were looking everywhere. And I knew I could do the job. I had been in television for 8 years. I was in high school, I was one of those people that I just went out to try to do everything.
Right.
I was a part of this club, that club, president of this, president of that. As a matter of fact, I was technically the first African-American female as vice president of the United States.
Wow.
I was the senator from Ohio to Girls Nation in 1969 and sworn in by SHEro T. Agnew. But that was the type of person I was. I believed in myself and I was outgoing. So I get to New York and for the audition, and walk into the room and there's 16 girls, all with blonde hair. I said, well, they were right. They're not looking for someone like me. But I kicked back and I did, my audition was 5 minutes on camera with Brent Musburger, 5 minutes delivering teleprompter copy and stories, and then 5 minutes of interviewing an athlete. But they wouldn't tell us who the athlete was until late the night before the interview. So we couldn't do any back research, and there was no Google, it was nothing like that. It was only networks. And this is, 1978. So, it was a different world. But, I had called a friend the night before and he said, Jayne, you have to understand that you're intimidating when people look at you. And I said, oh, well, I never thought of it that way. But he said, so what you have to do is just make the person you're interviewing comfortable. So, when the guy walked in the room the next morning and all the other girls started clamoring around him, trying to get a little tidbit, what they could talk about. And I'd seen a backgammon game in the corner of the makeup room. And I said to the guy, I said, do you play backgammon? He said, sure, because it was a big thing back then. So we sat and we played backgammon until it was time for us to go on set. And by then we were just old friends. It was great. We just had this camaraderie. And so after the interview, Brent just stood up without even finishing the other girls and the other women. And he said, it's Jayne or nobody. And
Wow.
the director said yes. The producer said yes. Frank Smith, president of CBS Sports, said yes. But they couldn't hire me because they were afraid that the Southern affiliates would withdraw, because that would mean that with me on the desk would be one black, one white, one black. And so my race was indeed a factor. And so they sent the audition tapes to the Southern affiliates. They all liked it. So the answer was, Jimmy the Greek was already on the show. Let's put him on the desk.
Yeah.
So it was 2 blacks and 2 whites, and that's how I got the job.
When the Dallas Cowboys arrived in New York late yesterday, CBS had a cassette of Too Tall Jones's bout ready for them to view. Irv Cross asked Cowboy general manager Tex Schramm his reaction to Jones's debut.
Oh my goodness, that is incredible. You and I had conversated before that, and I said that the first time I saw you on television on that panel, and it was at the Buccaneers game, it was Tampa Bay, and I knew precisely what you wore, that beautiful cream suit with the crimson red blouse.
Yes.
And just looking absolutely beautiful. And the thing that also blew me away is, like, not only is she beautiful, but she knows what she's talking about. And she's smart. Because you'll get women that'll be on TV and they'll be there just for show, but can't back up the fact of what the subject matter is, let alone discuss it to capture in that audience. And you were more than just a beautiful face. You knew what you were talking about, which blows me away that you didn't have a journalism background, because you were just such a natural on that panel and talking to the interviews that happened for you, and who you spoke with, and the athletes that you spoke with, and the people that were in entertainment who you spoke with. It just came so natural to you. Was it because of, like you had said, you were that person that, to me, I don't think it was imitating. I think that you were a go-getter before go-getting was actually cool. Someone that was ambitious, someone that would, try to prove the person that would doubt you wrong. When you had then set up with so many of these different interviews and everything, Jayne, I know that preparation is key and everything else, but how was it, walking into that room or walking into that setting with so many people, you being on that platform of NFL Today, and then all of these sports legends and those that were, big at the time, you walking into that room and just speaking with them? How did you feel about that? How did they feel about you? And what was part 2 of that? And what was the best interview that you had with one of the famous people that you spoke with?
Well, walking into the room and being comfortable around athletes was sort of easy for me at that particular point, because like I said, I've been in Hollywood for some time, 8 years at that point. And you do learn to be aggressive. You do learn to be confident, because every time you open a door, it's most likely that you're going to get a no, especially I'm 5'10". So, like, not only did they not want a Black woman, but they also would, the director would say, well, how do we frame her with the other people? Because the other people were like 5'2", and 5'6". And then you've got a 5'10" woman. So you're looking at, how do you frame the talent? They're looking at, how do you find, if she's in a relationship, this character's in a relationship, how do you find someone to partner with her when all the other male actors in Hollywood are 5'8", 5'7"? What is America looking for when they're expecting to see a Black woman? What is her hair like? What is her skin tone? How does she speak? And there were all these misconceptions, I should say, of what a Black woman represented at that time. But I was a child of the 60s. So I was comfortable with looking at, we've got to change this world. And I knew that I could do that to some degree. By the time I got on the NFL Today, I was comfortable with being told no. I was comfortable with being told, and I'm not saying comfortable in terms of accepting it. I'm saying comfortable in terms of being aware. And I knew that I had to do better. I knew that I had to do my absolute best. And my best was to just be me. I didn't try to be anyone else.
I think the best thing out of that, and
So
that's such a lesson for somebody to get, is that you did get that no, but you didn't let it be your final answer. Like you kept going.
I got a million no's.
Yeah.
And then, let's say only a handful of yeses. And so then when you talk about being comfortable around an athlete, I was great friends with Muhammad Ali before I went to the NFL today. So you can't get more starstruck than that.
Right.
So, if I could be in a room with Muhammad Ali, I could pretty much be in any room. So, I met Muhammad Ali in 75 and I went with him maybe before. Yeah, it had to be before because I went with him on as part of his entourage to the Thriller in Manila. And that was probably the craziest thing that I'd ever seen in my life. Just to see the essence of who he was, on a global scale. Because back then you had to dress. I mean, people dressed to go to a boxing match back then. So you see all these people from different countries and they're dressed in different garb and some are dressed in royal garb, and people in gowns, people in this and that, and all these different languages from around the world. And then he walks into the arena and all of a sudden, these hundreds of languages all turn into one. And it's Ali, 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 and here I am sitting in his corner. And this is only 5 years after I graduated high school.
Wow.
And I'm going,
that's incredible.
This can't be my life, and it was October 1. Oh, wow, that's like right around the corner, October 1, 1975. Wow. And I will never forget it because I remember being the girl from Wickliffe, Ohio, which is a very small community. And here I am sitting in Muhammad Ali's corner, halfway around the world from where I grew up.
Right.
So, to come in and then talk to Terry Bradshaw, talk to Joe Namath, Doug Williams, O.J. Anderson. I mean, the list went on and on. Art Rooney, there's a number of people because then
Magic Johnson and so many
that's what
people.
I was going to say. After I did the NFL Today, I ended up hosting Greatest Sports Legends. Yeah. And Greatest Sports Legends is the longest running syndicated sports talk show, I believe. And they ran for 30 years. And during that 30 years, they had never had a female host. And every year there was a different male superstar. And I was the first female and I was the first person to ever repeat as a host. I was their host for 4 years.
Wow.
So, then you get the opportunity to meet. It's not just the player of the week or, the guy that's now with Kansas City and used to be with Dallas, but now you're talking to the Bill Russells of the world. And that to me was amazing because then you're there for the whole day and you're hanging out with them. It's not just an interview because we shot those interviews at La Costa, which is a retreat. And they're there the whole day. They come in and they hang out at the spa the day before, and then we just walk with them, we chat with them, we eat with them, and you actually see these people in their life environment instead of who they are on a football field, on a basketball court. And they've been trying to get Bill Russell to do Greatest Sports Legends for years. And he had always said no. And when I became the host, they called and said, we want you to do Greatest Sports Legends with Jayne Kennedy. And he said, yes.
Wow.
So, when he got there, I had to ask him, I said, why? After all these years of you saying no, why? And he said, because you are creating a legacy and I want to be a part of it. And I think that was the first time that it ever hit me. That was the first time that it hit me that as a Black woman, I was changing the scope of probably one of the largest things that would ever happen in the world of sports. And that was doing females on the sidelines, females in the studio, females in a broadcast booth. And I have to say, that's when it hit me.
That has to, those words that he said with you had to really stick with you, and more so because that legend had passed away just recently, Bill Russell.
Yes.
And when that announcement came, I thought of you immediately, because I remember the conversation on that show when you did talk to him, and, you know, saying those words to you and imparting them into you had to just be I don't know what to describe it as, but it just had to be something that was just epic for you, of the path that you would set for so many years, and you continue to set still, even though that people and myself call you a legendary broadcaster and journalist. You're still doing what you had started to do, you know, back in, you know, the 70s, the 60s, the 70s and 80s and beyond. What was that moment when you had heard his passing, heard of his death? What was your feeling of all of that? Did it take you back to that interview? Did it take you back to the words that was imparted into you, what he had said to you when you heard the news of his passing?
It did, but you know, I'm 70, and so we've lost a lot of greats in my life. He'd have to be in the top 10 of the greatest of the greatest. So that did touch my soul. And it made me think of a lot of things. And, you know, like you say, that I'm still continuing, because I've been a mom for 30 years, stay-at-home mom for 30 years. And, but I always felt in my soul that I never finished what I had set out to do originally. And I knew that after my girls were grown and gone, that I was going to return. And so this is my Jayne 2.0 version. And I'm definitely going to be returning. I'm writing my memoirs, playing Jayne. And I'm
excited. I'm excited that this, ladies and gentlemen, Heard That Nation, if you're watching and listening, when I tell you, despite this conversation that we're having right now on this podcast, that Jayne has a plethora of amazing history. If you're not following her on Instagram, she is posting literally every day some incredible historical moments, throwback moments from when she was in high school to in college, to her being Miss Ohio, to her broadcasting early days in journalism when she was traveling with Bob Hope at ISO for the Troops, and in Dean Martin. Oh, that was one of my relatives' favorite shows when you was on Dean Martin, his show, and just the vast of talent that you have done on television and beyond. I am so looking forward to you now. We can add author to your resume. When this book comes out, what is it that you want the reader to grasp from the pages that you have literally poured not only your heart, but everything of your career, you being an amazing mom and so on? What as the reader, as the future reader, hands both raised, because I can't wait for it to come out, do you want us to get from your book that's coming up?
Well, you know, the reason that it's taking me so long, it's called my living process piece. That's what I refer to it as, because I started it 20 years ago. Everybody kept telling me, you got to write a book, you got to write a book, you know, and I just didn't know what I wanted to say. And so finally, when I decided, I just said I needed to just put everything on pages. And I didn't have a through line. I didn't know what I want readers to get out of it. Didn't know what I wanted to get out of it. I just wanted to get all the information on paper. And I ended up with over 600 pages, which, you know, if you're writing a book, that's too much. So, you know, then I had to start whittling it down. And what is the message? And I had a near-death experience in 1973 when I was on the Dean Martin show, and we were performing in Hawaii. And I was saved by an angel. And I call it an angel. I call him an angel because he was a guy that saved me, and I turned around and turned back and he disappeared. So he was an
Wow.
angel. And I talked to my mom the next day and I explained what had happened. And she said, Jayne, it's just not your time. There's something for you to do. There's still something for you to do, and it's not your time. So ever since she said that, I've been trying to find my purpose. What is it I'm supposed to be doing? How am I supposed to be helping? So part of my purpose is my children. I have 4 daughters, Cheyenne, Savannah, Copper, and Zaire. Zaire just turned 27. I don't know if Cheyenne wants me to say it, but she did. So I'll say she just turned 40. So,
Welcome to 40.
But, you know, for all the writing experience, I did not have the answer to what you just asked me. I did not know what it was that I wanted people to get from it. But I did know that I wanted people to understand that being yourself, your true self, is enough. And especially in today's world, because people are trying so hard to be someone else. You know, unfortunately, we've got filters on everything, not just images, but on personalities, on livelihoods, on the way you walk through your daily life. There's a filter of what you think people expect you to do. And, you know, I just have to be me. And I'm hoping that everybody can understand that. And I'm hoping that everybody can understand that you are enough. Don't let people sidetrack you. And a lot of times people go through blinders, you know, and with their expectations full ahead of them. And they don't see the flowers on the side that are waiting for them to pick, waiting for them to nurture, you know. And I just say dare, you know, just dare to dream sometimes. Dare to turn to the side and see what else is there. You know, it's not just, you know, people talk about setting goals. Well, I believe in setting goals, but goals change. As soon as you achieve one, you've got another goal, and it only lasts minutes, you know, because as soon as you achieve a goal, you're already thinking, what am I doing next? What am I doing next? So I say, you know, dare to dream, dare to be your most authentic self as you possibly can. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't do things. Because, you know, as I said before, I had a bunch of no's. I was given the Black Enterprise Women of Power Legacy Award maybe 5 years ago. And in my acceptance,
talk about that moment. That's powerful. That's big.
That was amazing because I totally did not expect that. It came out of nowhere. But let me say this first. What I told the audience, and this is like 2,000 Black women who are all at the top level of what they do. And my children, they invited my daughters to go with me so that they could see, you know, their mom, who is soccer mom, picked me up from school mom. And they wanted them to see what I meant to this type of audience. And my daughter Copper said, oh, so now I get what y'all been talking about. Because when she saw all these women and talking about how I had impacted their lives, and I never talked about that, you know.
Jayne, is it hard for you? Is it hard for you to get compliments like that? Is it hard for you when you hear Jamel sing your praises, when you hear Claudia Jordan sing your praises, when you hear so many people, especially some of the men that were trying to cast you aside when you were first coming on the scene, you know, a woman, a Black woman, to have her voice heard on a national platform, and for them now to be in the audience, standing up, giving you a standing ovation for everything that you have done in television and innovation and journalism and broadcasting. It's some moment. I mean, that's what I just want to know. I just want to know, is that hard for you to receive the compliments? They just come in to shake your hands and, you know, sending you DMs and calling you and just saying, thank you. This is what you've done for me. Thank you for helping me open this door. Thank you for helping me write this resume to get in to talk to this executive. to have, my 30-minute spot on this show. Thank you for allowing me to have the courage to ask my boss for a raise when this broadcaster male is getting this much money more than I am. And so now finally I'm being heard, of getting, my talents that I believe that I'm worth the dollar that I presented to them, and now it's working. So when I tell you in so many words or less, and I know I keep saying this so many times on here, of how much of an impact you have made of so many people's careers, I hope that you receive all that. I really, really hope you receive all that of what you have done and what you're continuing to do now with your career, and you just being your true, authentic self. The thanks that I can continue to say, and so many people say, is not enough, Jayne. It's not. You have given women a voice, Black women a voice. You have given them, like, you know what, I did this, I knocked down this door, I shattered this glass ceiling. Girl, go for it. That's what you've done.
It was the most difficult thing I'd ever done. Number one, because it was a lonely path. It was a lonely path because, it was totally different worlds. So you didn't have like an entourage traveling. I didn't have an entourage traveling with me. CBS would barely pay for my wardrobe. They wouldn't pay for makeup. They wouldn't pay for training. I begged them to give me training. They just threw me on the air. In my very first show, luckily, I had gone to Cleveland and interviewed the Cleveland Browns coach, Sam Ritigliano. So whom I knew because I was a Cleveland Browns fan. I grew up in Cleveland. But, my very first day on the set, we're doing the countdown to my piece. And I'm hearing it in my ear, directors, 5, 4, hold up, Jayne, the machine just ate your tape. You're going to have to fill for 4 minutes. So, everything was hard. Nothing came easy. The media hated me because, they resented the fact that it was a woman, a Black, and, someone who'd never been involved in sports journalism before. So, it was 3 strikes, and basically they considered I was out, and it was definitely hard, but lonely is probably the biggest part of it, because there was no one that you could talk to. There were no mentors. You were on the road by yourself. I'm in a hotel. I go down to the restaurant to grab dinner, and guys want to come over. Oh, you're, hey, you want to hang out with me? You want to? No, I'm working. Lonely. I would go to my room. I would eat my dinners in my room. I would study in my room. I would be on the airplane. I lived in Los Angeles. I worked in New York. I would fly to New York every Friday night, fly back to LA every Sunday night, fly Tuesdays or Wednesday mornings to do my interviews on these players. Most were east of the Mississippi. And then I fly back on Thursday, and then Friday night, I'm back on the plane again to New York. It was very lonely. And nobody wanted to believe that you could do it. When CBS hired me, they only gave me a 6-week contract, and they paid me peanuts. And I remember the second week of the show, Muhammad Ali was fighting Leon Spinks in New Orleans. And I overheard, I was in the office on Saturday trying to get some research, and I overheard the people on Sports Spectacular arguing with the attorneys because actually it was Friday. They wanted to get the post-fight interview with Holly that night, and they weren't able to do it. And they were angry words, and I just turned around and I said, I can get you the interview.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why they believed me.
Yeah.
But they put me on a private jet, sent me to New Orleans with a crew. And I called Ali and I said, hey, do me a big favor. I need to talk to you right after. I said, I won't take you much of your time, but I need to talk to you right after the fight. He said, okay, well, I'll leave the key for you at the desk. And if you go pick up the key, be in my suite, set up, ready to go, and I'll stop by there on my way to all my other post-fight interviews.
Mm-hmm.
So he walked in, my whole crew was ready. They started shooting the moment he opened the door. And we got this great little interview, and he looks in the camera and he says, I would only do this for my friend Jayne. And so we got on the plane, flew back to New York, and people on Sportspec edited the piece for their show, and they edited a piece for my drop on my Sunday pregame show with the NFL Today. Monday morning, I had my contract for the year. So there was no help.
Yeah.
You know, there was never help. You know, it was like you have to do it yourself every single step of the way. You know, I was trying to always be conscious of the fact that I was a Black woman. So I had asked them to, you know, you don't have a wardrobe budget, you know, and they said no. So, you know, I guess that came from my years of being in Hollywood. You always have wardrobe.
Yeah.
So maybe it was common that they didn't, but, you know, they didn't have it, you know. And so I said, well, if I get someone to do the wardrobe for me, would you give them in credits for the show? And they said, yes. So I went to a Black-owned boutique called Zagobi Boutique in New York. And I said, you know, hey, can you guys just provide wardrobe and you get in credits on the show and maybe people will stop by, you know? So they said, sure. So every Friday night when I arrived at my hotel suite, there were options, 3 to 5 pieces from Zagobi Boutique. And I would just have to leave them Sunday night, and the Zagobi would come back on Mondays and pick it up. Next week, they would have another set of options. But I wanted to make sure it was a Black-owned company that had that opportunity.
That's so good.
CBS was sending a limo to pick me up in LA to take me to the airport. And so I said, you know, we can do better. So I called them, and there was a brand new startup company, limousine service company that was Black-owned in Los Angeles. And I said, can I just book my limo service so I don't have to like always call you, say what time you call me? And they said, sure, you know, no problem. So I called Jackson Limousine. I said, hey, you guys want a contract with CBS? So, you know, that was always like in the forefront of my mind. What can I do that's larger than what I am doing? And it was when I got the National Sports Media Association Roone Arledge Award 2 months ago. When you say, to circle back on your comment about, you know, how do you feel when people acknowledge you? So I'm getting ready to do my speech, my acceptance speech. And I'm looking out at the audience, and there's Ernie Johnson, Scott Van Pelt, Charles Barkley. I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
And you know, these people stood up and gave me a standing ovation. That was pretty special.
Because that had to be a powerful moment, especially that award that you got. For those that are not familiar with it, literally, when I was doing research on it, is basically like the Academy Award version for innovation in journalism. And to have all of those people that you just named just stand up for you, Jayne, and what you've done. I mean, that moment right there, I know that, you know, while they were doing your introductions and everything, and you just walking up to that stage and just looking out into that audience and just taking it all in, what was your thoughts before you even spoke a word of your speech? Like, with capturing the audience, them standing up for you, what was that moment like when you saw the audience before you got to say one word of your speech?
It was breathtaking, because it was the fact that they just invited me in the first place and told me that they wanted to honor me. You know, because back in the day, the sports journalists hated me.
Yeah.
I swear, they just were so negative in any commentary towards me. And that's one of the reasons it was also such a lonely existence. But, you know, then to have them give you like one of the top awards in the sports industry as a journalist, that acknowledgement just meant the world to me, you know, and to see, you know, the respect from EJ was just something that I will never forget. You know,
I'm such an admirer of him.
I am. I watched her and I go, you know, oh my God, these guys are so great.
Yeah.
I watched them and, you know, it's just amazing as a fan, you know, I don't think of it, you know, as like, wow, I used to do that or something like that. I look at how much it has grown. I mean, you look at the set of the NFL today and it just looks like, you know, like a high school kid did it based on what the set looks like now.
Right.
The digital world, you know, that's available to them that just wasn't available to me. We would be on the desk and people would be handing you notes under the desk, you know, for you know,
wow,
the latest, and then we had like a set of monitors off to the right, and you'd have to watch, you know, all of these games. So you're looking here, you're getting notes under the desk. You've got the director in your ear, giving you instructions, and you're on a desk with 3 other people. It's scripted, but it's non-scripted. And so you have to be careful not to step out. It's craziness.
Yeah.
If you ever, and then you've got Central Time games that are coming on at the time that East Coast games are at halftime, that you got post games by the time you get to the pre-games of the 4 o'clock starts on the West Coast. And you know, it's crazy. It's crazy madness, but it is so exciting. But when you finish at the end of the day, you're just totally exhausted.
It had to be exhausted because now you got, with technology and everything else, you got is 6 games on at the same time where you have that network that's zooming in one game and zooming out, and this is what's happening, and we're at halftime in Tampa Bay, and we got a 3rd quarter nail biter going on in Philadelphia, while in Detroit this is happening. And so that is so crazy that you were getting the script and the notes underneath the desk, and you know, you all had basically had to, you know, breaking news, this happened and everything else, and just be so innovative and switch on a dime. Where, you know, like I said, now you just look at the right screen and that's happening. The middle of the screen, that's happening. Down here in the left-hand corner, that's happening. Like that. I mean, that is some work that you did.
You've also got computers giving you all kinds of stats and research information, you know. We didn't have any of that. Nothing like that.
Like literally you were the stats, you were the computer, you were, you know, whatever was given to you, that's what you had to work off with. That is so incredible of how much changed rapidly that y'all went through by hand, literally. By hand, literally. That is, wow, that just blows my mind.
I look at the desk of SportsCenter and I said, oh my God, I would love to do that show.
Yes. Oh, you would have crushed it. Oh, 100%. 100% you would have crushed it. Because I just think that, you know, what you had just shared, they have it easy now where, you know, they have the technology, they have the screen and the words and all of that and the changes and all of that and everything in front of them, whereas you can go and study all night, but then when you show up on set, which I'm sure has happened, where it's like, okay, well, this is now, we're gonna, you know, take this from you, Jayne, and then now you have 30 seconds to look this over. And you're like, which I'm sure that came into play because you are in entertainment for 8 years, you know, so you were in movies or, you know, performances and all of that stuff. So I'm sure that change and adaptability came to you naturally.
You know, you mentioned that, you know, because I did I hosted the Most Beautiful Girl in the World beauty pageant for Dick Clark Productions for 3 years. I co-hosted with David Hasselhoff. And I remember we were in Sydney, Australia. And we had, you know, been there for 2 weeks, everything's ready to go. And I'm in my dressing room just before the show starts. And, we've rehearsed it. We know exactly what we're doing. Totally unlike sports, we know exactly what we're doing, exactly what you say at this second, and then you go to here, and then you go to there. And the big giant computer board has everything, all the pre-tape packages are inserted. They come up, you do the lead in, it's totally different, totally different. So I'm in my dressing room, and Dick Clark knocks on the door, and he walks in and he says, "Okay, Jayne, it's 10 minutes to showtime, and our computer just fried." He said, "So he said, we have ordered a replacement computer, but we're like outside of Sydney in a gymnasium that they converted. And there's no way that somebody can drive a new computer board in." So he said, "We have a new computer board being flown in by helicopter, and the programmer is sitting on the board as it's suspended from the helicopter as we speak. And he's programming." He said, "But he's not going to be able to put it in the desk until maybe 12, 13 minutes into the show. So we're going to have to fill for the first 12 to 13 minutes of a live TV show."
Wow.
You just don't do that.
Yeah.
We have all these pre-tape packages. We had, oh my God, I want to say we had 160 beauty contestants from all over the world. We've got countries from all over the world watching this show. So he said, "They've got a tux coming in for me, and I'm going to go on stage with you and David." And he said, "When I hired you to do this job," he said, "I hired you because I knew you could do something like this." And that made me, I will never
That's so
forget
good.
that. So, here we are on stage, getting ready to fill for 13 freaking minutes.
Yeah.
And the computer guy runs out and he said, "It's ready to go. It's ready to go." We went to commercial and started the show just like that quick. So to be able to do things that quickly, I was accustomed to, I was working in television was not new to me. Working in sports TV was the only thing that was new to me. So yeah, I could do that, and I was used to being comfortable with knowing what my abilities were. So, I think that that's the thing that one of the messages that I want to get out in my book, I tell people all the time, dare to dream, dare to be the Michelle Obama in the sleeveless dress. Because everybody told me she couldn't.
Yeah.
So I know what I can do. And I know how to be what I'm supposed to be if I know what I can't do.
I know the big thing that you are is an inspiration to many. And you speak so well and eloquent of your daughters. And it had to be the biggest moment of your life when they took you to the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Oh my God.
Let me tell you something, and I'm not gonna try my hardest. I'm gonna try my hardest not to tear up on your behalf, because that moment when your daughters are taking you to the Oprah Winfrey wing in that museum, and that is on my list to go and check out that museum. There was a couple of occasions I was unable to when I got invited, and I'm going to make that a priority, especially for this reason. To see your photo and what you have done in journalism and entertainment be on the same wall as a Nichelle Nichols, as a Don Cornelius, as a Diane Carroll. Diane Carroll, for those that don't know, was the first woman to have her own show, Julia. I didn't realize how powerful that was until I heard my family, my relatives talk about her. And I was like, okay, she had her own show. I only knew her from the 80s when she was on, was it on Dynasty or Falcon Crest, one of the two shows. And I knew of that, but I did not know she had her own show. And that moment when your daughters are telling you, Mommy, go up there and look at your picture, look at, you're being recognized for what you've done. Jayne, that had to be a moment where you're just like, and for you to be in tears looking at where you started at in a photo of you and how much of an impact that you've made. How does it feel seeing that in a museum against the, next to those that I had mentioned? Because you had said it so eloquently that there was not a lot of us, of representation, let alone having an own show, let alone Don Cornelius doing something epic for Soul Train, you being on the platform of, NFL on CBS, which was the #1 show at the time. That moment when you saw your photo on the wall in that glorious museum, take me back to that moment. How did you feel?
I didn't believe it when I heard that it was there. A lot of things happen and you have no idea, and I just opened my Instagram one day and this guy said, I went, and I don't know who he was,
Yeah.
He said, I went to the Smithsonian and it just opened. He said, I went to the Smithsonian and look what I found. And they had taken a picture of the exhibit. And it was the television and the media landscape exhibit with the superstars that you had just mentioned. Mm-hmm. And he took it from the perspective of Don Cornelius and, like looking down the wall, so big Don Cornelius, then the Supremes, then Michelle, then Diane, Nat King Cole, and then I was like this small at the end, right? And in the photo, I couldn't really see it.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my God, this is incredible. I said, that's really exists? And he answered back, he says, yes. And my comment back to him was, oh my God, it's too bad you didn't get it from the other end so that I could actually see my picture. The next day he went back and took it from the other end and sent it to me.
Wow, that's incredible.
I was so touched that he had done that, Mm-hmm. And so I said, I gotta go see this, I couldn't believe it. And so I'm standing there, I walk in, and the first thing I could think of was my mom, because she was a huge Nat King Cole fan. Mm-hmm. And here I was, my picture was right next to his. Then I look over at Star Trek, I'm a Trekkie. Mm-hmm. How am I on the wall with Nichelle Nichols? I knew Diane, I watched Julia all the time, and then I look at the Supremes and I'm going, me and my sisters were in our basement. We knew every word, every dance move of every Supreme song that ever came out. And we'd be downstairs in the basement practicing our moves. Baby love, my baby love, in front of a mirror, toning it like we're going to go on stage at some point in our crazy career, right? And then we would charge our families at Thanksgiving, we would charge them a nickel to watch us perform. And all of these crazy thoughts are going through my mind and I can't walk to it, and I just couldn't. I was standing back and I'm looking at all of it and it's ugly tears just flowing, and Savannah kept saying, Mom, go, 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 and I'm going, I couldn't move. And I'm looking at the picture that they showed was the NFL Today desk. Me on the NFL Today desk. And just the challenges of actually getting that job, the racism that I had to go through to keep the job, the sexism that I had to go through to keep the job, the lonely moments when I made the decision that when I'm a mom, I'm going to stay home because this is too hard. Mm-hmm. Not saying that other women can't do it. I couldn't. And I wanted to be there for my children. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there to laugh when they came home and said they got their first kiss. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be there for their soccer games. I want not just some, all.
Yeah.
I wanted to be there for them when they felt insecure. I wanted to be there for them when people told them that they couldn't. And they didn't know me as Jayne Kennedy. They knew me as Mom. And so when years go by, and this is just Mom, and you're going to the market after I picked them all up from school, and we're in the car heading home, and a rap song comes on the radio, and it's Miss Fat Booty. And he says, "Oh man, the girl was so fine. She looked like Jayne Kennedy. Word to my mother, man. She was that ill." And
now you know you made it when you're in a rap song.
I slammed on the brake, and I'm going, before I could say anything, Zaire says, "Did he just say your name?" And we're looking at each other. I was in the middle of a busy street, and I'm still. And
Right.
Copper looks at me, and Savannah says, "Mom, you got street cred."
Yep. Shut it down. Jayne Kennedy's name was mentioned in the rap song. It's over. It's a wrap.
And then the next day, I guess it had just come out or something, because then the next day, everybody at their school was talking about it. Your mom was in a rap song. And I mean, that was cool. That was really kind of cool. It was like my kids got to share a part of who I was.
Yeah.
You know, and the same thing happened when we were in Florida at Black Enterprise. Same thing happened at the Smithsonian. And now I try to share as much as I can with my children about my experiences, because a lot of times things happen and they'll say, "Mom, I never knew that." And so part of the book is for them, because I want them to know who their mom really is.
Yes, is, because you are still doing incredible things and still daily, and I see, you know, and follow you on Instagram, you're daily posting something that's story, part of your history, or something that you're getting ready to do. You know, I know that you always speak so beautifully of your family. You know, growing up in Wickliffe, Ohio, and you know your siblings, and you know having a great mom and dad and everything else. And I love hearing stories of people that, you know, before that they have gone out and did something epic and, you know, made a name for themselves, or, you know, became a huge Hollywood actor or actress, or someone in music and everything else. It always started at home with their roots, with their parents. And I tell people all the time, it's such a blessing when you have such a supporting system like your siblings, like your mother and your father. Family to you, and you speak so beautifully of it, it just seems like it's everything from your beautiful daughters to, you know, your upbringing in Wickliffe, Ohio. What is some beautiful memories? You know, you talked about you and your sisters practicing the supreme moves. You know, it's amazing where a hairbrush can become your microphone. But did you have that when you were growing up, where you're like, you know, one day I'm going to be, you know, a movie star, or one day I'm going to be a singer, or one day, you know, did you speak your path into existence when you were growing up right there in that small town of Wickliffe?
Well, actually, my favorite short set when I was 5 years old was shorts in the top that had palm trees on them. And I had these sunglasses that had the cattail eyes.
Yes.
On them. And I would walk around, I would tell everybody, "I'm going to Hollywood, I'm going to be a movie star." You know? But then, you know, I gave that up by the time I was 7 or 8, you know. But, you know, I used to be a model for May Company department stores. Back in the day, there was a May Company. And I was on their team fashion board during my high school years. And for one of the luncheons that we modeled, and it was downtown at Terminal Tower, which is like the main structure in downtown Cleveland, still is. And Shirley Chisholm was the guest speaker. And I couldn't
Oh,
even get
wow.
ready for the show. I was glued. Because the year before I had been vice president of the United States Girls Nation. And here I am watching Shirley Chisholm in person. And, I'm supposed to be getting dressed backstage, and, I was glued. And so I decided then and there that I was going to be a politician. I was going to work as a model, make some money, and go to New York, go to Columbia University to become a model. To become Shirley Chisholm, another Shirley Chisholm. And then, when I won Miss Ohio, I was in my senior year of high school. And I had to serve a year before I actually went somewhere. So I couldn't go to college that year. And it was during that year that I started doing a local television show in Cleveland, and ended up getting married and moving to California instead. So I never ended up going into politics, but that was definitely something that I was thinking about. So it wasn't Hollywood. Wasn't Hollywood. That was something that was in my blood because I was part of the drama club, but there were never any parts for Blacks in any of the plays that we did. So I would always sit with the director, and I ended up being his, assistant, the director's assistant, or the head of this department, head of that department. And by the time I graduated high school, I was the only thespian member that had never been in an acting role. Everybody else had, and I had earned enough points because of all the other things that I was doing. So, it was something that I loved to do. And, I'd been on stage because I'd been a model. I had done television commercials when I was still in high school as a model for the Make Company. I had done fashion shows when I was in junior high because I could sew. My mom taught all of I had 5 girls in our family, so she taught us how to sew. And I would make all my own clothes. And so, I would do these fashion shows modeling my clothing. And so, it was just, I had an eclectic existence. And so it paid off, because then when I got to Hollywood, and you're trying to wait for a starring role in a movie, or not even starring role, just a decent role in a movie, they were few and far between. You might not get a movie for 3 or 4 years. And there were very rarely any other opportunities, hardly any on television. So, I had to be eclectic, so I ended up singing, dancing, doing commercial endorsement, product endorsements. And so when the NFL Today opportunity came around, it was easy for me to say, well, this is stepping outside of the box, because my whole life I was stepping out of the box.
Yeah. You bet on yourself. Like you knew that you could. Yeah.
To this very day, I still do.
And I absolutely love that. Like, through everything that you shared on this podcast, and through all the no's, there were some yeses, and through the yeses grew, some more yeses and the opportunity, and you just kept going. And that's the thing that will stick with me, and hopefully every person that's listening and watching, that no was not your final answer. Like, yeah, you know what, you're right. They're right. This is not for me. I quit. I'm done. I'm going to take a different avenue. You, through all that, and through all the loneliness and the hard times that you went through with NFL Today, you still kept going. Like, I just want people to get that through everything. And I cannot fathom, I can't even imagine those moments that you were going through. Anybody that was going through that level of loneliness and, being rejected, and not even getting a budget for wardrobe, not even getting someone to do your makeup and everything else. Like, literally, you were all those roles by yourself.
I did everything myself.
Yes, and you continue to go on, and didn't let the naysayers stop you from what this girl in Lansing, Michigan saw on her television set, and my best friend on her television set in Detroit, and my other best friend in Detroit, and on and on and on, seeing this beautiful woman deserve taking her place, her seat at the table on that platform on NFL on CBS. And I truly, Jayne, thank you for what you did and not making no your final answer. That you dug deep inside of you and knew that you could, and you mustered up the courage and the yes and the determination to keep going. And so my final question to you is, besides you coming out with this incredible book, which I cannot wait for it to come out, what else is Jayne Kennedy Overton going to do now? You said Jayne 2.0. What else is it that you want to do in the young 70 that you are?
Thank you. I'm working on compiling all of the things that I have collected, and I've been asking my family members, what do you have? Send it to me, send it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been collecting a library, so to speak. I am working on a biodoc. So, like trying to gather footage from anywhere because, back in the day, you didn't have, and I was on live television a lot. So you didn't have, someone at home that could record for you, or, you can find the VHS, you can find the footage of this show, that show, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard trying to find clips of the work that I did. So I've been really working hard on trying to build the library so that we can actually use that in the biodoc. But, look, I spent years when I talked about being a soccer mom for my girls. It was more than for my girls, because when my youngest daughter, when Zaire was 10, she was begging me to be part of club soccer. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's expensive. Do you really want to do this? Everybody was doing AYSO. And this was like since Savannah was 5. So we've been in AYSO for years, I used to breastfeed Zaire on the sidelines of Savannah's game, sit in my car. Because with the world of sports for our girls, it was volleyball, swimming, soccer, basketball, and year round, they were, mm-hmm. all of them were involved in some level of sports. And so I got to the point where I said, okay, if you really want to do this, we're going to, figure out a way to achieve this, mm-hmm. when I do club soccer. And I noticed that there were so many other girls, 9 years old, in AYSO soccer that were so talented. And I said, they need to be doing more. They need to be doing better. So I started recruiting. And wow. I put together a team, mm-hmm. and I had a meeting with all the moms and dads. And I said, I want to bring these girls into the club soccer arena. And we signed with one team. We didn't like the coach. And so they wanted to switch over to the West Side Breakers, which is the permanent soccer team on the west side of Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And it was at that time an all-girls club. I think they've gone to girls and boys at this point. So I went to the director and the head coach of the program, and he said, well, we don't take teams. They're going to have to all try out on their own individual qualifications. I said, I have no problem with that. Every single girl got chosen. All of my girls got chosen. So, he said, okay, we've got a coach that we want to hire, and we'll just give him your team. So they were together for 5 years. And then when Zaire turned 15, we decided that we wanted to step up her game because she wanted to play in college. And so we found a new team still at the West Side Breakers. And she started playing with the U17 players at U15. And that team, parents could not be involved. That whole club, parents could not be involved as coaches. So I became the team manager. And these girls were so amazing. And a lot of them couldn't afford club soccer. So my commitment to their parents was, I'm going to find a way for your girls to play. I'm going to try to find sponsors for them. We're going to do fundraisers. We're going to do whatever it takes to try to get your girls to play club soccer, because it's expensive. And we did. And we ended up winning when the Collegiate Women's National Championship was in San Diego. We were invited. They had tournament games all around the stadium of club teams. And so we entered that tournament. We were invited to enter the tournament, and my girls won. And I call them my girls because to this day, the last time we were a team was when they were 16, 17. And
Wow.
And they're now, you know, like 3-4 years out of college. But a lot of them were so good, they ended up getting college scholarships. So these were girls that I had handpicked at age 9. And to see them going on, living their dream and competing in college, that was a tremendous satisfaction for me, that I was able to have that happen, to have a young girl live her dream.
That's so good. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Literally, you are the Jayne of all trades, like soccer. I mean, it's incredible what you've had your hand in and accomplished. And, you know, the big thing wrapped around all of this that you've done has been an inspiration to so many. In, you know, the soccer field that you just talked about, in journalism, innovation, entertainment, acting, just so much that you have shared. And I hope that many people, from what you have talked about and what you have shared, have become inspired, because you are a person that has inspired myself and many people that will be tuning in and watching this and listening this. I hope that everybody will continue to support you and follow your story, because it's not done yet. You have so many things that you have done, but I think your story just still continues, because there's a lot, like you had said, there's so much for you to do. It's so much for you to share. It's so much for you to be involved in. And I myself, I don't want to sound greedy, but I definitely want to see you back on television.
I would love that. I
Yes.
actually would love that. So I've been having meetings with a lot of producers and directors and showrunners. And we're trying to come up with something that might fit. So we shall see.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what, I actually, you know, and I say Jayne 2.0 because, you know, like I said, I didn't feel that I finished what I set out to do. So the way that I write my name now is just Jayne with a semicolon. The semicolon represents a sentence that could have ended, but it's not finished yet.
Oh, I like that.
So
okay, I'm going to be writing my sentences with semicolons. That's good. That is so good, because the period at the end of the sentence means it's the end.
Done.
Like, that is all.
But mine is a semicolon. Not done yet.
Not done yet. I love it. How can people follow you on social media?
On Jayne Kennedy Overton. I made it kind of simple. On Instagram and on Facebook, Jayne Kennedy Overton. And on Twitter, which I'm not a Twitter person. So, you know, I don't really do that much, but I am there, and it's Plain Jayne KO. Plain Jayne is the name of the book that I'm writing. And so this is Plain Jayne KO for Kennedy Overton.
There is nothing plain about you whatsoever in my eyes. This has been a moment that I will cherish for a lifetime. You have inspired me and so many people of the work that you have done and you will continue to do. And I am excited for you. I'm excited and I'm rooting for you for what is going to happen for you, what is already in progress happening for you. God is already designed your path of what is going to be. And I'm already thankful and cheering you on and just so grateful for you agreeing to come on this podcast. And I am honored as an admirer, as a person that has followed you for years and is I got pom-poms in both hands just cheering for you. Because it's going to be incredible what is going to be happening for you. It won't surprise me in the next minutes or hours or whatever it be that all of a sudden you have something going on just like that. And I look forward to your book coming out and whenever you do book tours, because I'm going to be there, try to be at every single one, because I'm just excited about what you're going to share. And I hope that people do follow you. And I thank you so much, Jayne, for taking the time to come on the podcast. I had to. So grateful.
I saw your interview with Dr. Tachi several months ago, and you were talking about representation matters. And you spoke about me, and it was like, oh my God, she sees me. I mean, it was so clear. You saw me, and I just had to. Oh God, all the years that never saw me, and you were so right on the button. And I had to reach out to you. I did.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I saw me in you when I saw you on that NFL on CBS set. And that for me was inspiring because it was someone who looked like me that was on not just my little TV that we had in our house, but it was so much more. And I know that I speak for so many people and so many that are watching and listening, that your name will be spoken and we speak your name and we lift your name up because of what you have done. And so thank you so much, Jayne, for coming on the podcast today. I'm so grateful for you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all of those that are watching. Jayne is my first guest that officially has made my makeup run to my jacket. And as I always end the show, ladies and gentlemen, please take care, stay safe. We are out of here.